Hello and welcome to the show Behind the Scene with David Bedien from Jerusalem, the capital of Israel. Good morning, David.
Good to see you. Thank you for calling for all of our listening audience, wherever they are.
What would you like to talk about today? What do you think of the Congress play and the
U.S. Congress has come through for Israel once again. Actually, they've come through for integrity. The United States Congress conducted a full-scale study of the school books used by the Palestinian Authority and UNRWA, and came to the conclusion that they are brainwashing the next generation of children for war. And as a result, the U.S. Congress commissioned what they call a GAO study, a government organization accountability study. And what they found is that the school books are preparing the people for war, and they recommended that the United States government no longer support the Palestinian Authority school system, which is, by the way, also the basis of the UNRWA school system, the United Nations Relief and Work Agency. Now, here is the story that you need to know. First of all, this is one of the school books. I've showed this before to you. This is a 5th grade school book, and you open it up. It's an innocuous school book for literature, and as I turn the pages, I find the picture of Dalal al-Mughrabi, who is a here she is. Okay, now Dalal al-Mughrabi, she's presented in the school books as a role model for children. And there's 3 pages to the teachers on how to teach her story. Now, Dalal al-Mughrabi, you'll see her, she's very well dressed. She's landing on the beach near in Tel Aviv. And
yes.
what the story is, when she landed on the beach, she didn't come there to swim or to be in a beauty contest. She murdered a photographer on the beach, and then she proceeded with 5 terrorists, Arab terrorists, to hijack an Israeli bus and to kill everybody on the bus. They killed all 38 people on the bus, and in the shooting that ensued, she was also killed. Now, this is the role model. Where in the world have you had a role model like this? By the way, some people say, well, I'm sure the Nazis did this too. The Nazis did not do this. The Nazis did not have school books where they promoted murder. They did the murder but they were always trying to cover it up. This time they do not cover it up. Now, so that's the good thing. What happened? The Congress commissioned a report. But what you need to know is that the United States government, for the past year, the report was supposed to come out last April, and on April 17th, the day it was supposed to come out, the United States government issued a veto, like what they call a classification of the books of their report, and they would not allow it to come out. It's censored to this day, so that the American people have no idea what's in that report, and Congress is not allowed to look at the report. When we spoke to Senator James Risch, the chairman of the U.S. Senate, the Senate Foreign Relations Committee subcommittee on the Middle East, he said if he looks at the report, opens the report, quotes the report, he can be arrested because it's been censored. Now, President Trump, who knows what's in these school books because our agency were able to get this to him directly, he knows what's in the books. He's directly responsible for censoring the books from the American people. My analysis,
President Trump knows about that.
Absolutely. He knows about it, knows what's in the books, he knows what's in the reports. But he wants to carry on with what he calls a peace process, and as other American presidents have done, and that comes ahead of integrity. This is not a matter of pro-Israel. This is a matter of integrity and lack of integrity. The fact that the findings of the congressional study of the Palestinian Authority and UNRWA textbooks is being denied access to the American people and the American Congress.
So what's the next step?
Is galvanize public opinion. People on programs like this, which are not politically correct programs, which get to the people. If 10, 20, 30 people were to contact your local American embassy and say, why are you doing this? By the way, all the details, the sordid details of this action appear on our website, which is called IsraelBehindTheNews.com. If 10, let's say, Swedish citizens were to contact the American embassy in Stockholm and say, why are you censoring the truth about the nature of Palestinian Authority and UNRWA education, they would feel pretty uncomfortable about that, and it would affect them. They may change policy.
But I mean, how can you do anything to the Congress? Well, what the Congress can do about it, or the Senate?
Veto allocations to UNRWA. That's what they can do. And allocations to the Palestinian Authority, even more important, because President Trump has already announced he's not going to give any more money to UNRWA. But in terms of the Palestinian Authority, they keep giving money to them. This is a very nasty situation. Now, the Americans pulled out, and the Saudis, the Qataris, the Germans, and the British moved in. Not good.
So, well, the Americans can't do much about the Saudis and the Qataris and Germans, and
they can do plenty. They can open their mouths and say this is inappropriate. That's the worst thing you can say. It's inappropriate and should not be done. Not in the spirit of peace.
why do you think they do that?
Preserve the image of peace, the image that there's by keeping information away from the American people, the president and his associates, Kushner and Greenblatt, can look people in the face and say, we're trying for a peace process. That's why they're doing it.
So you don't think like they have something in the sleeves that we're gonna do that, we're gonna say that, but really we don't think that way.
I don't know what to tell you. This is not a matter of going through the motions. This is a matter of a policy to obfuscate the reality of the Palestinian Authority and UNRWA from the American people. And this has been going on since 1988, when President Reagan recognized the PLO as if the PLO was suddenly pro-peace. But we know that from one of President Reagan's advisors, Dr. Alan Keyes, that the Saudis put pressure on the American government to do that. So that's what we're facing.
So I don't know what I mean.
Not
If the Trump administration saying this and this and this, but we can, all the other people in the world says, oh, look at them, they're trying to make peace, but really they know they're not going to succeed because of a million things.
Let me tell you something. Stop you for a moment. When you raise the expectations of a totalitarian country at war with you, it's the worst thing you can do.
Is this what do you mean? Like if you at least start to support them, it means you're killing Jews. That's the price.
That is what it's all about. That's the purpose. That's the focus of Palestinian Authority curriculum. You can see our website at israelbehindthenews.com. We bought all the books. It was our desire to get the books for peace, the books for war, all kinds of books. There's only one kind of book there, and that is the kind of war that we've been through 364 recent texts, and they have one theme to them: the war to liberate Palestine and replace it with Israel.
Why do you think the Congress put a secret stamp on it?
Because the idea, look, I'm a nice person. I come to Congress with a small group of people who have done very, very good research. But it doesn't matter. They had to do the research themselves. They did the research themselves on our work on the Palestinian Authority curriculum, which is used by UNRWA, and they came up with a conclusion that's their conclusion, not our conclusion. That's the whole point of what we're trying to say here.
It's the same conclusion.
Oh, yeah. Precisely.
So what's the deal? I don't get it. Well, why wouldn't stop the books or stop the support, the economical support, and all that?
Because it's good for the image of a peace process. It's good for America to have an image of a peace process. That's what they're trying to present. What I'm hoping that 10 people who are in Stockholm right now watching this program will raise a question, an objection to the American government in Stockholm, the American embassy in Stockholm. You have no idea how important your feedback is if you let the American State Department know something that they're trying to keep away from you. Because when 10 people respond, from their point of view, that represents thousands of people.
So you think if 10 people from Stockholm write to the American embassy, hey, what's going on?
It has an effect on policymakers.
Well, David, what's the next step?
The next step after that is to do everything possible to stop the situation of refugees in refugee camps for perpetuity, forever. That has to stop. $1 billion, $1.2 billion a year is spent to keep these refugees in refugee camps. It's ridiculous. And that has to stop. We have a 5-point program on our website, Israel Behind the News, on how to bring pressure to bear against the donor countries to stop this ridiculous situation.
But I thought that the Trump administration stopped the money to the UNRWA.
To UNRWA, they did not stop the money to Palestinian Authority Education, and when they stopped the money to UNRWA, then they arranged for the Germans and the Brits to take their place, along with the Saudis and the Qataris. So life is a little bit more complicated than how the media projects it.
So what would that help if we push the Americans, if the other guys doing the same, their work instead?
The Americans, because the Americans are the kingpin of the negotiating process, which some people call the peace process.
Is there any peace process?
Absolutely not. Absolutely no chance, no possibility. That's it. But by creating the image of a peace process, you get your point across. You get your policy accomplished of selling the product. And both sides of the aisle in Congress are supportive of what we're doing, and people in Israel do not know what's going on. What I suggest is people want to help us out can sponsor a public forum here in Israel to show the school books and the school teachers and the incitement and the brainwashing that's going on.
What if the conclusion of the Senate and the Congress about the books is the same as yours? Why don't they do anything about it?
They do not know what to do. It's that simple. I've given them a formula in terms of being in touch with the American government, the American embassy, wherever you are. They're not used to questions which are something beyond, where's the nearest hotel and where do I take a vacation? That's what they get from people abroad.
Did you ask them to do something?
We asked them to do several things. One, we have several issues that they can relate to, which are very easy to relate to. We call it the UNRWA Reform Initiative. One is demand for an overhaul of the book. 2, stop military training in the schools. 3, demand a accountability, transparency, where all the money coming in. Number 4, make sure that people have the opportunity to leave the camps if they want to. And finally, how about some stories of transparency? Because we know that a lot of the money and food being distributed in Gaza and also in Jerusalem and the other places that UNRWA operates is basically a matter of thievery.
Is the American media have any knowledge about the books?
Very little. Very little. If we had a sponsor once a month to present this at the new findings of the National Press Club, perhaps we would. But we're a small agency and we can't afford that unless we get proper sponsors. That's what I can tell you. So the American people are kept in the dark.
But it has nothing to do with sponsoring. It's just getting in 60 Minutes reporter and says, look at that. Nice story. What do you think?
It doesn't work that way. It doesn't work that way. You have to be much more direct, much more like, for example, we're right now uncovering a new program in the Arab schools to stone Jews on the roads. And the children, when they get out of school at 3 o'clock, if they stone a car, a vehicle, they get a prize. If they kill someone, they get a higher prize. And a young woman who was murdered 3 days ago in her car, leaving four small children, she was killed, and her killer is going to get quite a prize. And these are operating in the UNWAR schools where there's no trace whatsoever what happens to the cash in the schools. That's
All right.
what I just.
Okay, David. Thank you very much.
Good to see you. Behind the Scene with David Bedien. And remember, a book like this should not see the light of day, and certainly the 67 nations that contribute to Palestinian Authority education should not be promoting the legacy of this woman who was here, is clad in the PLO flag, who landed on the beach, murdered a photographer, and then took over a bus and killed 38 people with her terrorist squad. That is the hero in their school books, and that has to be changed.
Thank you very much, David Bedien from Jerusalem.
Behind the Scene with David Bedien. Whenever we can make things clearer about what's going on here in Jerusalem, we'll endeavor to do so.
Thank you very much, David.